capture of Yeshua at the Mount of Olives has always fascinated me. There are things that happen in that encounter that contain aspects of high strangeness. So much so that I'd like to look into a few things that happened there. Suffice it to say that I don't think this story was made up. This video will look at one noteworthy action, and depending on how it goes, I may do a few more. So join me now as we look at another weird Hebrew tale. Remember Yehuda Iscariot's infamous act of betrayal when he kissed Yeshua HaNotzri to identify him before his captors at Gat Shimonim on the Mount of Olives, and how he did so with a kiss. Have you ever wondered why would he have chosen to do that of all things? Was it simply to humiliate him? Surely he could have just pointed him out or touched or even embraced him. The incident appears in Matthew 26:48, Mark 14:44, and Luke 22:47. In the book of Matthew it reads, "Now the betrayer had given them a signal, saying, 'Whomever I give the neshikah,' that is Hebrew for kiss, he is the one, grab him." Now that translation comes from the Orthodox Jewish Bible. Some commentators explained that it was dark, though they had lanterns and torches, and Yeshua and his Talmudim were dressed exactly alike, and some even say that they looked very similar to one another. Yehuda was a Talmud of Yeshua, but he was a thief, and having charge of the money bag, he used it to help himself to what was put in it, according to John 12:6. His title, Iscariot, and its meaning has been the subject of much debate over the centuries. Thought to mean the man from Kerot, which was a town in South Judea. Other sources say it was probably a corruption of the Latin Sicarius, meaning assassin, which actually comes from the Hebrew word Zachari, derived from the Hebrew word Sikar, meaning dagger. Indeed, Yeshua had taken on Shimon, that is Simon, who was a known zealot, along with Kepha, that is Peter, having the nickname Bar Yonah, meaning outlaw, in Matthew 16:17. And of course, Yaakov and Yochanan, who were known as the sons of thunder, in Mark 3:17. So Yeshua's Talmudim could certainly look after themselves and were a far cry from how they're portrayed today in most forms of media as simpletons or hippies. And I'm not exaggerating there. Nearly 99.9% of the depiction of Yeshua's Talmudim is insane. Just do a Google search, do a YouTube search, and you'll see what I'm talking about. In their day, the Romans would have viewed them as resourceful and unpredictable insurgents. It's also worth noting that Yeshua, at the height of his popularity, had around 80 inner circle Talmudim, most of whom abandoned him because his teachings were far too difficult, which is interesting to note. Yet Yehuda, along with the 12, stuck with him after the very difficult shiur he gave in Capernaum. It is also less widely believed that Yehuda was a Karaite, a term used for a sect of Jews who, along with the Sadducees, rejected much of rabbinic interpretation and customs, holding to the written Tanakh alone as the only source of authority by which one should conduct himself. The word Karaite means literally to read, inferring to follow only what is written. Some say that it is impossible that Yehuda was from this sect, as it didn't emerge until hundreds of years later. However, Judah Halevi, an 11th century Spanish sage, placed the origin of charism in the 1st and 2nd century. Certainly, Yehuda's addressing of Yeshua with the words "Greetings, Rabbi," before he kissed him, using the title sarcastically, fits well with the concept of charism, as they rejected rabbinics. Yehuda's kiss is the personification of the ultimate act of friendship, yet it is used as a cloak for causing him harm. This is believed to be where the phrase "the kiss of death" actually came from. The mouth is often used as a tool of betrayal. Kepha, that is Peter, who was present in the courtyard near where Yeshua was being dealt with, uses his mouth to disavow any association with him, with 3 escalating degrees of denial. In the culture of 1st century Israel, a kiss on the cheek as a sign of farewell or as a greeting after a return from a long absence was a sign of deep respect, honor, and brotherly love. However, the sages ruled that kissing was to be avoided as it could lead to lewdness, but a kiss was permitted as an act of respect, as the kiss given by Samuel to Saul during his anointing, and after a prolonged absence as Aaron's kiss to Moshe, and on parting ways as in the kiss of Orpah to Naomi. In Proverbs 27:6 we read, "Wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses." In 2013, a newly deciphered 12,000-year-old Egyptian manuscript, which was originally discovered in 1910 in the remains of a monastery, revealed something very interesting about why Yehuda might have chosen to kiss his master. The text was eventually published in a book called the Pseudo-Cyril of Jerusalem on the life and the passion of the Christ, a Coptic apocryphon. And an interesting section concerning a discussion over how Yeshua was to be arrested reads as follows, and I quote, "How shall we arrest him? The Jews asked, for he does not have have a single shape, but his appearance changes. Sometimes he is ruddy, sometimes he is white, sometimes he is red, sometimes he is wheat-coloured, sometimes he is pallid like ascetics, sometimes he is a youth, sometimes he is an old man, sometimes his hair is straight and black, sometimes it is curled, and sometimes he is tall and sometimes he is short. They have never seen him in one and the same appearance." End of quote. According to this 1,200-year-old Egyptian manuscript, Yeshua could also become completely incorporeal. He is found explaining to Pontius Pilate that if he wished, he could escape crucifixion this way. The idea of a shape-changing Yeshua is not new, and it goes back as far as early Christian theologian Origen of the 3rd century. According to Origen, or Origen as many people pronounce it, Yeshua would even appear differently to people who saw him at the same time. Indeed, other occasions show Yeshua being able to conceal his identity until an appointed time, as in the incident with the breaking of bread with the 2 Talmudim in a dwelling on the road to Emmaus. In this account, he concealed his appearance and later reveals himself, then completely disappears before their eyes. At other times, he is recorded as being able to evade capture by inexplicably slipping away as if disappearing or changing his appearance. But these extreme explanations from this Coptic manuscript still don't really explain why Yehuda kissed his master. He could have put a dye on his hand and merely touched him affectionately and marked him that way. Yeshua's response to him doing this is also very interesting when he says, "Friend, do what you came to do." This response also suggests a very small moment of hesitation in Yehuda's actions, and it is also noteworthy that he still refers to him as a friend, perhaps alluding to his willingness to forgive him, yet he encourages him to continue with his plot. So why do you think Yehuda kissed Yeshua, and what do you make from his response to this kiss? Feel free to comment below. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Weird Hebrew Tales. Bye for now. If you like the content of this channel, get a hold of this book. It is literally jam-packed with information you will not find in most Torah publications. Its pages include topics like the fable of the money-hungry Jew, the lie that propelled the Holocaust, the real root of anti-Semitism, rightly dividing Mashiach, which contains startling truths about the Messiah you will not read anywhere else, Judaism in the New Testament, updated information about the creation of the Golem and the false Messiah, the commandment to wage war, the truth about the Shield of David, a compendium of all the false teachings in the Messianic movement to help you navigate what is truth, biblical capital punishment, and why you should be frightened of sinning, the significance of the land of Israel, the obligations of the student, the eye in the triangle, sanctified sex, how to think like a Jew, and much, much more. There is also an updated chapter 1, and along with all the other chapters, has hundreds of footnotes and references. This is a book that took 10 years to research and compile, and will be a welcome addition to the library of any discerning student of Torah and Mashiach. Get it today on Amazon and other online bookstores. Bye for now.